Welcome to the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. I'm Melisa Liberman, a fellow IC and business coach. On this podcast, I teach you to become a consistently booked independent consultant without becoming a pushy salesperson or working 24/7. If I can do it, you can too. Listen on to find out how. Welcome to episode 158 of the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. This is Melisa Liberman, and I am so thrilled you're here today because today we're going to talk about leveraging channels to fill your consulting pipeline. If you're like any other consultant that I talk to or work with, you are looking for easier ways to fill your pipeline, keep it full, improve the quality of your pipeline. And so that's why I want to share this strategy with you here today. And I can only guess it's not a strategy that you're unfamiliar with, leveraging channels to grow your business. But oftentimes it's not something we think about intentionally for our business. And so that's why I really want to call it to your attention today to start thinking about intentionally how can you build channel relationships so that other people refer ideal clients to you, other companies refer ideal clients to you, other organizations refer ideal clients to you, and it takes the heavy lifting off of your plate. So that's what we're going to be up to today. Let's dive into the agenda and then we'll start talking about the first steps here. So, the agenda for today. First, I'll share with you the companion resource that goes with this episode so you can put it into action after you listen to today's episode. Then we'll just take a step back and talk about the very basics of a channel strategy for your lead gen. So let's get on the same page about what we're talking about and some of the basics around a channel strategy. And then I'll share with you a couple of case studies from real life independent consultants who are leveraging this strategy to not only add potential clients to their pipeline, but also to increase the quality of those leads in their pipeline and also to make it easier to close those leads and increase their sales close rate. So I'll share with you a couple of case studies just so you can really think about this in real life terms and how this might apply to take those examples and think about how they could apply to your business. And then we'll wrap up today. I want to share with you some really specific questions you can be asking yourself. There's 6 or so of these questions that I've written out for you today. Some very specific questions for you to ask yourself to start thinking about what an intentional channel strategy will look like for you. Oh, and along the way, I'm also going to share with you some mistakes that consultants make when they're building a channel strategy to help you avoid those. So, we've got all sorts of great things here today in today's episode. All right, with that, let's talk about the companion resource that goes with today's episode. If you've been listening to the podcast for the last few months, you won't be surprised that it is the book that I wrote and released earlier this year. It's called Grow Your Consulting Business, the 14-step roadmap to make your independent consulting goals a reality. You can go download the book on my website, melisaliberman.com/book. You get the PDF version of the book. And then I would also recommend going and buying it on Amazon. I've got the paperback copy right here in my hand, and I'm constantly referring to it. And it's been a great reference manual for me, which is kind of weird because I wrote the book, but having this on your desk can be really valuable. So, with that, we're looking at chapter 9 that goes with today's episode, which is all about building your lead generation system to uncover high quality opportunities. That's what chapter 9 is about. And that's really what we're also focused on today with respect to leveraging channels to fill your consulting pipeline. So now that we've got the companion resource under our belts, let's talk about the basics here. Let's just take a step back, talk about the basics, and then I'll start sharing those case studies with you. So, what is a channel? When I talk about leveraging a channel to fill your consulting pipeline, what I'm talking about is the channel strategy is a lead generation strategy that involves, in a very simplistic term, involves leveraging third parties to generate leads for your business. I'll say that again. A channel lead generation strategy involves leveraging third parties to generate leads for your business. I am not talking about outsourcing leads for your business. Let me be very clear. What I am talking about is setting up relationships that result in other people, other companies, other associations creating and sending you leads for your business that then you pursue. It includes any range from very informal agreements to more strategic partnerships or co marketing agreements. So it can be very lightweight or it could be very heavyweight. I love to start out with very lightweight informal agreements. Maybe that you're setting up an agreement that doesn't even have any monetary exchange, where organizations or other companies send you potential clients or introduce potential clients to you, and that's simply the gist of it, that they get the benefit of having you as an expert to refer people to or companies to, and you get the benefit of the lead. And that's in the most simplistic terms, and then it can get more formal from there, where you might be setting up referral fees and arrangements and that kind of thing. So that's what, in a nutshell, a channel strategy looks like. And the key is that you're really identifying channels that align with your ideal target audience and offer complementary services. So let's talk about why. Why would you leverage channels to help you fill your consulting pipeline? It really boils down to a few things. First of all, it helps you to fill your consulting pipeline. That's part of the title of this episode, right? It's a strategy to help you drive inbound leads. So you're not doing a lot of the heavy lifting to create the leads. The leads are coming to you through relationships you have with other companies or other associations or other people. The other thing that a channel strategy does is helps you to increase your close rate from a sales perspective. And that happens primarily because you've got this transfer of trust happening. When someone that your ideal client is working with or has a relationship with of some sort, when that organization refers that ideal client over to you, they're transferring their trust over to you to say, look, go talk to John. He's got a lot of experience in this area. He might be able to help you. There's a transfer of trust there. And as a result, it helps you to overcome some of the initial potential skepticism or questioning about whether or not you might be the right person. A lot of times when we're getting a referral from a channel, that a lot of those initial questions are not even part of the equation or taken off the table. So it can help you to increase your close rate in that way. It also helps to increase your close rate because you're getting inbound leads of potential ideal clients who have a problem that you likely will help them to solve. So they already are someone seeking out a solution versus where you might be doing more of lead generation on your side, networking or that kind of thing, where you don't even know if they have the type of problem that you solve. So it helps you to shorten the sales cycle in that way and increase your close rate because you've got people and companies who are coming to you that have problems that you solve and are looking for a solution. And then ultimately, this channel strategy will help you to become more sought after in your industry for your specialization, to build your reputation as the go to person for what you do, which makes everything about your business easier. So, those are some of the reasons why you would want to consider including a channel strategy in your lead generation system. Now, let's talk about some examples just to make this more tangible. Let's talk about some examples of what I'm talking about when I'm referring to a channel strategy, what it might look like for you as an independent consultant. It might look like having a channel where a software company that works with your ideal client refers business to you, or an industry association refers business to you, or industry influencers. There may be already people in your industry who have a really solid reputation as one of the thought leaders in that industry, and having them refer business to you. Or let's say that you're in working with your ideal clients are tech startups. You could leverage a tech accelerator to refer business to you, or a venture capital firm that has a series of portfolio companies where they're recommending you to come in and help with the type of work that you do. It may look like other consultancies. Could be the big four, it could be boutique consultancies or anything in between, other independent consultants. So often they may be lacking the specialization that you have or may not have enough capacity. And so having you as a solution in their back pocket can be really valuable as a strategy for them to win more business and deliver that business successfully. Or another channel to consider are other professionals who work with your ideal clients. Who else works with your ideal clients? Might be other independent consultants or boutique law firms that work with your ideal clients. Think about who works with your ideal client, what types of companies, what types of organizations, what types of associations, what types of other individuals work with your ideal clients. And those are the types of organizations that can comprise a solid channel strategy for you. Okay, so now that we've got those basics underway, let's dive into a couple of case studies. I want to really share with you these case studies so you can see how this works in practice. And this isn't just about theory. And also to help you to start get the juices flowing about think about the details I'm going to share with you may not apply to you and your business specifically, but think about the concept that I'm sharing with you and how this scenario, while the details might not apply, how the concept could apply to you and your business. Because again, we're here today talking about how to build an intentional channel strategy for your business. So let's talk through this first example. And I'm going to share it with you in a way that doesn't give any identifying information. Of course, I wouldn't want to compromise anything about the consultant who's leveraging this strategy. But I also, at the same time, I'll give you enough detail that you can use it to start thinking about how it could apply or translate to your own business. So this particular example is about an independent consultant who has built a channel strategy by leveraging relationship with a software company. So she's got a relationship with one software company that works with her ideal clients. And they've been able to forge a really good relationship where that company will refer business to her when certain situations arise with their clients. So let me tell you some more details about this. Basically, the software company that she's built a partnership with, and I want to use that word very carefully. It is a loose partnership. We're not talking about, a 10-page legal agreement. We're talking about a very loose relationship where she's made a connection and built a relationship with key individuals in the sales organization and the delivery organization of this software company. And they just simply refer business over to her. There's no money changing hands back and forth from a referral perspective. It's a very loose agreement. So when I use the word partnership, I'm using it in a very loose way in this example. And I want to say that because sometimes we fall into this trap of thinking we need to formalize things and we should set up some kind of all of these legal constructs when in reality it can start off very simply and may never need to get to that place where it's really buttoned down. Depends, obviously. This is not legal advice. It depends on the scenario, of course. But the point is that sometimes we go after something thinking it's going to be really hard to put in place when it can be very simple. Very simple from the perspective of just building relationships, becoming known to potential channel partners who can refer business to you and having you as a resource for them to leverage when they need to. So, with all of that background and caveats, let me just explain the scenario to you here, this case study. So, anyway, this consultant has built a relationship with a software company who works with her ideal clients. They share that same exact target client type, and she's built a relationship with them. They obviously are providing the software to those types of clients, and they have their own in-house consultants who implementation resources who implement the software. But what they are lacking in their organization in house is someone like my consulting client who's able to help craft more of the strategy around the use of the software and the policies against which the software is used and the outcomes and the goals that the companies are trying to achieve by using that software and getting the executive teams aligned and the internal decision makers aligned on what that looks like from using the software and all of the goals and outcomes that they're trying to achieve around it, essentially. And so my client is able to augment and come in certain scenarios where there are unique requirements by the clients that are trying to achieve certain goals through the use of the software. And they're able to leverage my client as a subject matter expert to come in and help with the strategy around the software and the program around the software and the processes around the software, and ultimately to make that implementation more successful. So she's coming in as a subject matter expert and able to help drive those implementations ahead in a more strategic way, in a way that isn't just about how to configure the software, but ultimately how to get the value out of that software. And so that's been a very valuable arrangement for both the my client who is the consultant who's doing this work and also for the software company who wants to provide a holistic solution to their end client so that ultimately they're driving more usage of the software, more adoption of the software, and become a longer term provider to their end client. So without sharing any of those identifying details, hopefully you can really see the example here of how you can leverage a channel partnership with a software company, even if they've got their own consultants in house, where you're leveraging your own expertise and able to augment what they're doing to make it a win win win. The win 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 is you're winning as a consultant, like in this example that I just shared with you, where she's gaining access to clients that she would have had a hard time getting on their radar. And she also has been able to further reinforce her reputation in the industry. And then the software company benefits because they're able to provide more valuable solution to their clients, a more strategic solution to their clients that's wrapped around the software and therefore drive more adoption, drive more usage, and ultimately client retention. And then finally, the client is wins because they're able to maximize the benefits of using the software and the strategy and processes surrounding it to reach the business goals that they're trying to achieve. So hopefully you can see here through this first example that even when a software company has consulting resources or implementation resources in house, or they may even have relationships with integration partners like an Accenture or a Deloitte or an E&Y, there's still room for you as an independent consultant when you've got that type of specialized knowledge and can come in and help with implementing best practices and understanding and building out strategy around the software. So that's the first example of a software type channel. The second example is a case study of an industry association type of a channel. And this particular consultant that I'm sharing with you, the case study around this consultant, she's got a relationship with an industry association. She's one of several independent consultants who has this type of relationship. So it doesn't have to be exclusive by any means. But this industry association is well aware of her and her skill set and how she can help their association members with the type of work that she does. So she has built a relationship with this industry association. She's a member of it. She's been on committees over the years. She does a lot of speaking for that association, pro bono speaking for that association. She does some writing for that association. So she put some effort into the relationship. And in turn, that association is consistently sending her leads of association members who are asking them, who can help me solve the problem that I've got? I'm looking for a consultant to help me with X, Y, or Z. And that association, because she's built and maintained and added value to that relationship, they're constantly giving her name to the potential clients who are asking, their association members who are asking for resources to help them with their problems. So hopefully that gives you another tangible example here of how you can build relationships with an industry association in this example, where once you're on their radar screen and you're adding value to them and their organization, then they're reciprocating by sending you potential clients and filling your pipeline as a result. So the win 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 in this example is that the consultant is getting leads, the association is helping their members, and the end clients are getting the help that they're asking for and creating all of those connections. So hopefully those couple of case studies, again, they're a little bit tricky because I don't want to share too much identifying information from the people that I work with, but hopefully at this high level they can give you some ideas of how you can be thinking about channel relationships within your own business and the types of organizations that might make the most sense for you to tackle first. So, with that, let's talk now about the mistakes you want to avoid as you're thinking about a channel strategy for your business and your pipeline. Here are the four most common mistakes that I see as we start thinking about building out a channel strategy for a consulting business. The first one is, this sounds really good, right? As we think about creating more inbound leads and more inbound interests, it can be so attractive because so many of us don't want to be marketing and selling ourselves. And so it can feel really attractive, especially as you start putting these in place and start getting some wins under your belt. You just want to be really clear that this is not your only strategy. It's one of the strategies, but you don't want to become dependent on it. I've seen in the past where consultants have come to me and said, I've got a really big problem in my business right now. It's going really well, but I realize that I've become dependent on this certain company that is sending me leads, and I've got all my eggs in one basket. And there's too much risk now in my business, and I've got to figure out how to diversify. So I want to just bring this to your attention to say we don't want to rely on this strategy for your pipeline, but it certainly can be a important component and a very effective component for your pipeline. The second one I already alluded to or touched on a minute ago, but don't spend a lot of time formalizing an agreement before you even have a proof of concept. I had a consultant who came to me and was really excited because they had built out a relationship, with a channel partner. And as we were digging into the details, I realized they had spent 6 or 7 months hammering out all of the details of how the referrals would work and who would get paid for what types of referrals and what they wouldn't get paid for. And then it ended up that it was a complete waste of time, that there were never any leads shared with that partner. So just, you don't need to get into a bunch of formalization to begin with. Eventually you might, but just start off with a proof of concept. Just start off with building the relationship with that potential channel and asking them how they usually work with other channel partners to get a good sense. At the end of the day, you just want to make it easy for them to refer business to you and easy for them to think of you when someone asks for a consultant who solves the type of problem that you solve. So think about this in a beta way or a proof of concept way, or how do I make this as simple as possible way? And then it can evolve and mature over time. The third mistake that I commonly see with channel partnerships or channel arrangements to fill your pipeline, sometimes we don't consider the opportunity cost. So it can seem really attractive to go after this approach. And for the reasons I've already told you, it is very attractive. It can be an excellent way to augment and fill your pipeline. But at the same time, you've got to be really careful about who you're choosing as a channel partner to pursue, and really think about the opportunity cost of how much you're investing in that relationship versus how much you might be getting in return. And working to maximize choosing one or two channel partners and really building those relationships to make them as productive as possible. So just be careful. This isn't it may seem like an quote unquote easy way to fill your pipeline, but at the end of the day, you are spending your time on it. So you just want to be careful with that. And then finally, the last mistake that I wanted to point out to you is just make sure that you're aligned with this organization that you might be pursuing a channel partnership with. Make sure you're aligned with the goals and values. You don't want to get into the situation where you're building a relationship and having another organization drive referrals to you when they might be working with a slightly different type of client than you want to be working with, when they might have different values than you have in the way you want to run your business. And then you end up getting leads that are not valuable to you. And you end up spending time on sales processes, working with non ideal clients, and so you just want to be really clear about that as you move forward. And I'll share with you in here in a second a question or two around that might will help you to get more clear about what that means. So, at a high level, this gives you a sense of how you can start leveraging channels to fill your pipeline. What is a channel strategy? What are some examples of types of companies that you could build a channel strategy around? I shared with you a couple of case studies and the mistakes to avoid. So, now as we wrap up this episode, let's talk about some really important questions to help you identify companies, organizations, and people who could be possible channels for you. And I'll share with you these 6 questions. My favorite is the sixth one, actually. And we'll put these in the show notes as well so you can go copy and paste them and start doing the work on them. Do the work on them. Don't just listen to this episode, but really sit down and take half an hour to start with and answer these questions for yourself so you can start thinking about a channel strategy. Oftentimes, the most common question I get when I start working with consultants on this is I don't know where to find companies or associations or people who would be interested in this type of an arrangement. And so I want to help you get the juices flowing around this. So that's what these 6 questions will help you do. Number one, what organizations and companies work with your ideal clients? That's pretty straightforward, right? What organizations and companies already work with your ideal clients? Who has already amassed your ideal clients as an audience? So it could be a podcaster, it could be someone who is a frequent writer, does some form of a publication for your ideal target clients. They may have user groups. Like think about who has already amassed your ideal client as an audience. What types of vendors or other providers does your ideal client already work with? What organizations or associations does your client belong to? Who in your existing network also works with your ideal client? And the last question, which I said was my favorite, who would your 1 to 2 dream channel partners be? Don't limit yourself by, well, they would never consider me for whatever reason. Like, really think about it. Who would your 1 to 2 dream channel partners be? And then once you've identified those companies, organizations, and people using those 6 questions, then you want to meet them. You want to build a relationship with them and put a beta or a proof of concept in place somehow. You can also offer to provide value to their audience in the form of speaking or writing or thought leadership. And that benefits them because they don't have to do that as a result. Or you're providing a perspective that their internal teams aren't able to provide because of your knowledge. So you're providing them value because you're giving them that type of expertise in the form of speaking or writing. And then they're providing you value because they're pushing it out to their audience and helping you to build your reputation as a go to resource for what you do. Finally, I would just want to reemphasize make it easy to refer to you. Don't just have one conversation and assume they'll remember it. Think about where in the organization would referrals come from or would those connections come from? Build relationships with more than one person in the organization. The power of people realizing that they both know you, for example, can be really valuable when you're building out this kind of a relationship where your name is kind of all over the organization in some way. Really think about how can you build deeper relationships with that organization, broader relationships with that organization, and maintain those relationships so that you're top of mind to them when they need to refer a client or a someone that they have a relationship with over to a consultant like you who is able to solve the type of problems that you solve. So that's what I've got for you today, my friend. Think about leveraging channels. What is your intentional strategy for leveraging channels in your business to help you fill your pipeline? And then don't forget to go download the book and check out chapter 9 on building your lead generation system. It's at melisaliberman.com/book. And I will see you again here next week. Take care. Thanks for joining me this week on the Grow Your Independent Consulting Business podcast. If you liked today's episode, I have 3 quick next steps for you. First, click subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to make sure you don't miss future episodes. Next, leave me a review in your podcast app so other independent consultants can find and benefit too. And finally, to put the ideas from today's episode into action, head over to melisaliberman.com for the show notes and more resources to help you grow your consulting practice from your first few projects into a full-fledged business. See you next week.